Seniors. Never reheat these 5 foods. They could be poisoning you. Have you ever opened the fridge, pulled out last night's leftovers and thought, "It's just food, what harm could it do if I reheat it?" Well, here's a chilling truth: most people, especially seniors, don't know. Some common foods, when reheated, can quietly turn toxic. They may look the same, smell the same, and even taste the same, but under the surface, dangerous chemical changes are taking place. Changes that can trigger foodborne illness, disrupt your digestive system, or even strain your heart and nervous system. For younger people, the damage might just mean a stomachache or an uncomfortable trip to the bathroom. But for seniors whose immune systems are slower and more fragile, these hidden dangers can quickly escalate: dehydration, hospitalization, and in the worst cases, much worse. And this isn't just theory. A 2019 study in the Journal of Food Science found that reheating certain starchy and protein-rich foods can cause the buildup of harmful compounds and increase bacterial risks, especially when leftovers are stored improperly. That means what feels like an innocent midnight snack could actually be a hidden threat to your health. Today we will count down the 5 foods you should never reheat, from the lower risk but still concerning to the most dangerous of them all. And with every warning, I will give you a safer alternative so you don't feel deprived. But before we dive in, let me ask you 2 quick questions. Do you usually reheat your leftovers, or do you prefer eating them cold? And how often do you reheat yesterday's meal? Leave your answers in the comments. We will read each one and reply with personalized health tips designed just for you. And stay with me until the end, because the number 1 food on this list shocks almost everyone, and chances are you have reheated it before. Food number 5. Eggs. Eggs are the classic breakfast hero. Scrambled, boiled, fried. But here's the problem: once they are cooked, reheating them can create a chemical time bomb. Proteins in eggs are delicate. When you cook them the first time, they denature, meaning they unravel and change structure. That's normal and safe. But when you reheat eggs, those same proteins tighten up even more, becoming rubbery and tough. Why does that matter? Because tightly bound proteins can actually make eggs harder to digest, especially for older adults with weaker stomach acid. And it's not just about digestion. The bigger danger is oxidized cholesterol. A study in the Journal of Agricultural and Food Chemistry found that when eggs are exposed to high reheating temperatures, cholesterol molecules oxidize into compounds called oxysterols. These oxysterols have been linked to artery damage and inflammation, which is a direct risk factor for heart disease. Now here is where seniors need to be extra cautious. Your body's natural antioxidant defenses decline with age. That means you are less able to neutralize the oxidative stress from reheated cholesterol. But the risks don't stop there. If eggs aren't refrigerated properly and then reheated, they can harbor salmonella bacteria. According to the CDC, salmonella causes about 26,000 hospitalizations in the US every year, and seniors are disproportionately affected because their immune systems can't fight it off as quickly. So what should you do instead? If you cook eggs, eat them fresh. If you have leftovers, eat them cold, like sliced boiled eggs on a salad rather than reheating, or make smaller portions to avoid leftovers in the first place. Bottom line, reheated eggs might not kill you, but they could silently weaken your digestion and cardiovascular health over time. Food number 4. Rice. You love rice. It's comforting, cheap, and disappears off the plate faster than you can say seconds. So here's a plot twist for the countdown. Rice seems harmless until it isn't. Welcome to fried rice syndrome, the culinary thriller that ends with vomiting, cramps, and for vulnerable people, real danger. Below, for short, punchy reasons why reheated rice deserves respect, with the science to back it up. 4. It's born in dirt. Rice doesn't start sterile. Bacillus cereus, a soil bacterium, commonly rides on raw rice into your kitchen. That's the first plot point. Contamination often happens before the grain ever meets your pot. Studies repeatedly find B. cereus in rice samples around the world, which helps explain why rice shows up in so many outbreaks. 3. Cooking kills bacteria, but not their survival trick. Yes, boiling or steaming rice will kill most active bacteria, but B. cereus has a built-in survival plan. Spores. Those spores shrug off heat the way superheroes shrug off bullets. They survive cooking and lie dormant until conditions are right. Scientific work shows spores can survive heat treatments and then recover and grow when the environment cools. That's why cooked rice can suddenly become dangerous. 2. The toxins don't care about the microwave. Here's the truly insidious bit. When cooked rice cools slowly at room temperature, those spores germinate and the bacteria make toxins. Some of those toxins, especially the emetic toxin known as cerulide, are heat stable. In plain English, reheating won't reliably neutralize them. You can microwave rice until it is steaming and still get sick because the toxin is already there, chemically intact and ready to wreak havoc on your gut. Numerous reviews and outbreak reports underline that reheating is not a cure. 1. The scary real-world payoff and who's most at risk. Food poisoning from B serious ranges from a miserable morning of nausea and projectile vomiting to several days of diarrhea and dehydration. For healthy adults, it's unpleasant. For seniors, infants, and people with weakened immune systems, dehydration and electrolyte loss can cause confusion, weakness, and dangerous heart rhythm problems, the very reason a stomach bug can become an emergency in older adults. Epidemiological reviews show rice and cereal products account for a large share of B serious outbreaks and associated cases. One documented fried rice outbreak isolated very high counts of the organism from the leftover dish, a textbook reminder that a single ill-stored portion is enough. Imagine a family dinner, a big pot of rice at 6 p.m, conversation, then a half-empty pot left to cool on the counter overnight. The next day someone reheats a bowl. For lunch, by late afternoon 3 people are sick, 1 is dizzy from vomiting. Public health investigators later point to be serious in the rice. It is not a horror movie twist, it's an everyday kitchen oversight with predictable consequences. Outbreak reports show variations of this story again and again, according to CDC and PMC. How to stay safe: no drama, just discipline. Eat rice fresh whenever possible. Cool fast. Spread rice out, move it into shallow containers, divide large batches. Ideally get it into the fridge within 1 hour. Don't leave it in the danger zone, according to Food Standards Agency, CDC. Store cold, short, sealed. Keep cooked rice in the fridge and eat within 24 hours. If you can't finish it in a day, freeze portions immediately. When in doubt, throw it out. A funky smell or odd texture isn't a gamble you want to take. Reheating is not a sterilizer. If the rice was stored poorly, reheating won't make it. Safe toxins can survive. If you are a rice devotee, try rotating in quinoa, buckwheat, barley, or even cauliflower rice. They make great bases and change up textures and nutrition, but don't treat them like magic. Other grains and starches can also carry B serious if mishandled, so the same chilling and storage rules apply. In short, rice isn't evil, but it demands respect. Rice makes meals feel like home, just give it the TLC it needs after cooking. Cool fast, store cold, eat soon. And we'll keep your kitchen as only true thriller to the stories you tell about the meal, not the one you live through. Food number 3. Potatoes. Nice seg from rice, both are humble, filling, and impossible to resist. But if rice was the slow burn kitchen thriller, potatoes are the creepy twist behind the fridge door, comforting, ordinary, and under the wrong conditions, quietly lethal. In fact, a 1994 CDC investigation documented the largest U.S. botulism outbreak in decades, traced to foil-wrapped baked potatoes left at room temperature and later turned into dip. 30 people fell ill. Attack rates reached 86% among those who ate it. 4. Soil's uninvited guest. Potatoes grow underground, and so do spores. Clostridium botulinum is a soil bacterium that can hitch a ride on tubers. Cooking can destroy active bacteria, but spores survive many household cooking methods. When those cooked potatoes end up wrapped in foil and left at room temperature, the foil traps moisture and cuts off oxygen, a textbook incubator for spores to germinate and produce toxin. It's an embarrassingly simple chain of events with terrifying consequences, according to studies conducted by Food Safety and Inspection Service. 3. The toxin's quiet violence. Botulinum toxin doesn't cause a dramatic fever or telltale smell, it attacks nerves. Early symptoms can feel like a bad flu or a lazy eyelid. Nausea, double vision, drooping eyelids, slurred speech, trouble swallowing. Then it can descend into descending paralysis and respiratory failure. The CDC calls foodborne botulism rare but extremely dangerous. Even tiny amounts of toxin can cause life-threatening illness. Seniors, whose respiratory muscle strength and reserve are lower, face a much higher risk of severe complications from even modest exposure. 2. Foil plus time equals history of outbreaks. This isn't theoretical. Public health investigators have repeatedly linked botulism outbreaks to baked potatoes that were baked in foil and left at room temperature, then used days later in dips or salads. One classic outbreak documented in peer-reviewed reports traced several hospitalizations to aluminum foil-wrapped potatoes that sat out for days, the kind of ordinary oversight that turns a Sunday dinner into an emergency room story. That case is a blunt reminder. You won't see, smell, or taste the toxin before it's too late. 1. Reheating isn't a magic fix, and acrylamide is a second, quieter danger. People assume reheating makes food safe. Not here. Clostridium spores can survive household cooking. Once the toxin is made, heating the potato won't reliably neutralize it, the damage is already done. Microwaving with its uneven heating is especially unreliable for sanitizing suspect leftovers. Public health guidance therefore emphasizes prevention, proper cooling and storage rather than rescue reheats. There's a second, less dramatic hazard with reheated high-heat potato cooking. Acrylamide, a chemical that forms when starchy foods are cooked at high temperatures, think roasting, frying or heavy browning. Acrylamide has been linked in animal studies to cancer and to nerve damage at higher exposures. Regulatory bodies including EFSA and other agencies consider it a potential public health concern and recommend reducing unnecessary exposure. So that plate of reheated fries carries a two-headed risk: botulism if storage was wrong, and higher acrylamide if you keep charring and reheating. Picture this: a family potluck. Someone bakes a tray of potatoes wrapped in foil to keep them warm. Not everyone eats. The tray gets left on the counter. 2 days later, leftovers become an inspired dip at a gathering. A few hours after that, a handful of people are struggling to breathe and talking about numb tongues and double vision. Public health teams test the food and find botulinum toxin. It's not melodrama, it's the real arc from normal evening to public health incident. These outbreaks have been documented and they always have the same human beat, a small lapse that becomes catastrophic for the vulnerable. How to keep potatoes safe. Practical, non-judgmental rules. Cool and refrigerate fast. Put cooked potatoes into shallow containers and get them into the fridge within 2 hours sooner in hot weather. Rapid cooling stops spores from waking up and growing. Don't store them wrapped in foil. Remove foil after baking. Foil traps moisture and oxygen poor pockets, exactly what botulinum loves. If you must reheat, be cautious. Reheating won't undo toxin already made. Microwaving heats unevenly and isn't a reliable kill step. If the potato was stored properly and you are reheating to eat soon, unbaking until steaming hot is safer than a quick zap, but prevention is the real key. When in doubt, toss it. Botulinum toxin gives you no giveaways, no weird smell, no color change. Don't gamble. With a container that has been at room temperature for more than a couple of hours, cook smaller batches. If you love potatoes, cook what you will eat. Fresh is safer and tastier. Potatoes are comfort on a plate, but they are also biological things that respond to time, temperature, and oxygen. With a little habit change, remove foil, cool fast, chill quickly, and don't rely on reheats as a safety net. You keep the comfort and leave the danger on the cutting board. In the kitchen, caution is small. Consequences can be huge, especially for seniors and immunocompromised people. Treat potatoes like a loved friend. Keep them warm when you serve them, or cool and store them safely for later. Your future self and your grandma will thank you. Food number 2. Spinach. If potatoes pulled a creepy twist behind the fridge door, spinach is the bittersweet betrayal, the superhero of the plate that can quietly turn into a hazard when you treat it like yesterday's side salad. People stock spinach because it feels good to be healthy: iron, folate, antioxidants, Popeye-level virtue. That very virtue is part of the problem. Here's the story, with the science, the human stakes, and simple practical habits that keep your greens doing what they are supposed to: help you, not hurt you. Why spinach can flip from friend to risk. Spinach and many leafy greens naturally contain high levels of nitrates. In a living plant, those nitrates are mostly harmless, and in fact, dietary nitrate can be converted in the body to nitric oxide, which helps relax blood vessels and lower blood pressure. But the chemistry changes after harvest and especially after cooking. Under the wrong conditions, slow cooling, long storage at fridge warm or room temperature, or repeated reheating, nitrates can be reduced to nitrites. And nitrites can react with other food components, amines too, for men nitroso compounds, nitrosamines, a class of chemicals that cause cancer in animals and are associated with higher risks of certain gastrointestinal cancers in human studies. That's the biochemical headline, but the human subtitle is what matters. Nitrites also interfere with hemoglobin's ability to carry oxygen. In infants, this shows up as methemoglobinemia, the blue baby syndrome, a life-threatening oxygen-carrying problem. Seniors, especially those with heart or lung disease, or anyone with reduced physiological reserve, are vulnerable too. A drop in effective oxygen transport is not a small inconvenience when you already have a fragile system. Public health agencies place infants and certain vulnerable people at highest risk. What the research actually says, it's nuanced. The science is not spinach equals poison. Several peer-reviewed studies and reviews show cooking often reduces nitrate levels compared with raw leaves, but the story doesn't end there. Storage conditions after cooking are decisive. If cooked spinach sits at room temperature, conversion to nitrite can be rapid and significant. Refrigeration, by contrast, largely halts that conversion. In controlled studies, cooked vegetables stored cold did not show the same nitrite buildup as those left at ambient temperature. Nitrosamines and cancer. Decades of laboratory and epidemiological work link N-nitroso compounds with cancer in animals and with higher gastric and esophageal cancer risk in many human studies, especially where diets or preservation methods promote nitrization. The evidence in humans is mixed and context-dependent, but it is strong enough that researchers treat nitrosamine formation as a real public health concern worthy of prevention. Put simply, the problem is conditional but real and preventable. You cook a big pot of spinach to toss into weeknight dinners. Life happens: a late meeting, a tired family, and the bowl sits on the counter to cool for several hours. The next day you reheat a portion in the microwave for lunch. It tastes fine. There's no odor, no color change, no drama. 2 weeks later you read about nitrosamines and whet your worry. That ordinary, unremarkable reheated plate is exactly the kind of minor lapse that science flags as the setting where nitrates can become nitrites and nitrites can become nitrosamines long before anyone notices anything wrong. How to keep spinach safe: practical, evidence-backed rules. These are small habits with big payoff, and they preserve both flavor and health. Eat spinach fresh when you can. Freshly cooked greens are best for both nutrition and safety. PMC. Cool and refrigerate fast. Divide large portions into shallow containers and get them into the fridge within 1–2 hours sooner in warm climates. Studies show cold storage keeps nitrite formation low. CERN, Government of Hong Kong. Avoid repeated reheating. Heat, cool and reheat cycles are the conditions that favor chemical changes and bacterial activity. Don't make leftovers, do extra work. Food hygiene depth: if you must reheat, do it properly. Reheat just once to steaming hot throughout and consume immediately. But remember, if nitrosamines or high nitrite levels formed during poor storage, reheating won't reverse that chemistry. Prevention is the point. Food hygiene depth: consider alternatives for make-ahead meals. Kale and Swiss chard tend to accumulate nitrates differently, and in some studies, show lower propensity for nitrite buildup. Under comparable conditions, rotating greens is a practical, flavorful fix. Still follow the same cooling or storage rules for any cooked vegetable. MP final thought: respect the chemistry, keep the comfort. Spinach is one of those foods that makes you feel virtuous, but virtue needs a little housekeeping. The risk here isn't flashy. It's quiet chemistry that takes advantage of slow cooling and casual reheating. By cooling quickly, storing cold, reheating only once, and eating fresh when possible, you keep spinach on TMU. For seniors, caregivers, and anyone cooking for infants, a few extra minutes of care around storage are cheap insurance against outcomes no one wants to imagine. Love your greens, treat them kindly. A small habit: chill fast, heat smart keeps spinach a superfood, not a silent hazard. Food number 1. Chicken. We have climbed the list to the one that should make you stop and think before heating that cold piece on your plate. Chicken. It's Sunday roast, weeknight comfort, 1,000 dinners, and it's also the dish that combines structural, microbiological, and chemical dangers in one bite. That's why it sits at the top of this countdown. First layer: protein and texture. Heat changes meat proteins. Reheating can make chicken tough, dry, and harder to digest as muscle fibers and collagen tighten and denature a second time. That's not just an eating quality gripe for frail seniors. Tougher meat can be a real swallowing and digestion burden. Second layer: bacteria. Raw and undercooked chicken commonly carries salmonella and campylobacter. Even well-cooked chicken can become risky if it cools slowly or is stored carelessly. Bacteria multiply in the danger zone and leftovers become a reservoir for infection. The CDC and food safety agencies repeatedly flag poultry as a leading source of foodborne illness. Third layer: uneven reheating. The most common quick fix: the microwave is notorious for cold spots. Research using thermal imaging and microbiology shows microwaved chicken often heats unevenly, leaving pockets that never reach safe internal temperatures and where bacteria can survive. That's why guidance tells us to reheat to 165°F and to check with a thermometer. Fourth layer: oxidized fats and toxic breakdown products. Chicken, especially skin and dark meat, contains polyunsaturated fats that, when repeatedly heated or overheated, break down into aldehydes and other lipid oxidation products. Compounds like 4-hydroxynonenal and related COPs linked in laboratory studies to inflammation and cellular damage, and implicated in long-term health risks. Reheating scorched or repeatedly heated chicken raises that chemical toll. Put this together and you get an ordinary dinner that can become dangerous for vulnerable people. Dehydration from vomiting, sepsis in severe cases, or slow cumulative harm from oxidative compounds. The drama isn't sensational. It's real, layered, and preventable. Safer approach: cook only what you will eat. If you must store chicken, refrigerate quickly and eat within 24–48 hours. Prefer cold chicken in salads or sandwiches rather than risky reheats. If you reheat, use the stove or oven and confirm an internal temperature of 165°F74°C throughout. Final note: enjoy chicken but respect it. Fresh is delicious and safer. Reheating is a careful trade-off you don't want to gamble with, especially for seniors and anyone medically vulnerable. So let's recap. The 5 foods you should never reheat are: eggs, risk of oxidized cholesterol and salmonella; rice, risk of bacillus cereus toxins; potatoes, risk of botulism and acrylamide; spinach, risk of nitrites and nitrosamines; chicken, risk of bacteria, oxidized fats, and digestive strain. For younger people, these risks might mean a rough night, but for seniors, they can mean hospitalization or even life-threatening complications. The good news? You don't have to give up these foods. You just have to change how you handle them. Eat them fresh, store them safely, and when in doubt, throw them out. Because here's the bottom line: your health is worth more than a leftover. So the next time you reach into the fridge, ask yourself, is reheating this food really worth the risk? If you found this video helpful, don't forget to give it a thumbs up, subscribe to our channel, and turn on the notification bell so you never miss our future health tips. And if you know someone over 60 who could benefit from this information, be sure to share this video with them. Your support helps us reach more people just like you. Thank you for watching, and we will see you in the next video.